All right.
Here we go.
Welcome back to the season 47 finale of the Merge Feast. My name is Blake. Joined with me is Logan and Brandon. Welcome back, you two.
Hello.
Yo.
This was the perfect finale for one of my favorite seasons of the new era. And there's no sense in hiding any spoilers. Rachel is the season winner, and deservedly so. So I'm just going to pass it off to you, Logan. What's your reaction? Are you happy Rachel won? Were you surprised at anything? Uh, give us some insight on where you're at.
Yeah. For me, I went into this episode thinking if Rachel makes it to the final three, she's gonna win. I thought if her and Sam could go, that it could be a little iffy. Not necessarily iffy, but Sam could have some votes cast for him. Um, Going throughout the entire episode, I think the episode was great, but the thing that I guess I'll say the thing that surprised me the most was how well Sam did at the final tribal with the way he spoke, explained things, and all. I honestly was like, is this going to be more towards Sam? Clearly it wasn't. He only got the one vote, but I was truly impressed with the way Sam presented his final tribal council.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I will say, Blake, you call this one of your favorite seasons of the new era. I would call this my favorite season of the new era. I think just from episode 1 on, it was entertaining. Pre-merge was great. The first time in the new era that we haven't been kind of bored by what's going on there. And then the merge, and then just the overall gameplay. I think we saw the best players that we've seen in the new era. Obviously, Rachel, Sam, Genevieve, Andy, Caroline all stick out. Great players, and obviously there's not enough space for them all to return in season 50, but this is going to be a memorable season for, I think, all the right reasons. But wasn't surprised with the result. I was kind of the same with Logan. If Rachel wins the Final Four immunity challenge, I was like, that's wraps. It's a lock. I was surprised that she brought Sue with her. I think her reasoning, she explained it very well. Just it was solely due to loyalty. And then Teeny and Sam in Fire coming down to the wire. Sam making the big comeback there. I thought that was a really good, just kind of image of what Teeny and Sam's game were, all in kind of that one challenge. And then I agree 100% with you, Logan. I think Sam was fantastic in Final Tribal Council. I think he was very compelling. I actually was starting to doubt Rachel, and I was like, is Sam about to win this game? Because he was incredible. Everything he said was like, if I was there, I would want to vote for him right now.
Yeah, I was the same way.
Loved that. Loved that it kind of gave me a little bit of doubt. And I liked the banter between Rachel and Sam during Final Tribal. We haven't really seen anything like that for a while, but I loved that we had two, I think, worthy winners. If it went towards Sam, I would have been perfectly happy with that as well. What about you, Blake?
Yeah, everything you said was spot on. I was to the point where I looked at my wife and I said, Sam's got this. Like, the way he answered the questions, the way the jury was responding to how he was answering questions, the way Rachel reacted to some of his questions, I thought, okay, he is doing all the right things, and he definitely came into the final tribal as the underdog, and I mean, it was Rachel's to lose, and Sam almost stole it from her. Like, he did so well. Um, the thing that I was a little surprised about, and that I didn't really realize until Rachel and Sam were both talking, is how similar their games were. Like, a lot of the things that she said about her game, I was like, you could apply that to Sam, and vice versa. Like, they were both kind of underdogs. And there were moments, I remember us talking about moments like pre-merge, really, where it's like, wait, who is that? What is she doing? Who is she aligned with? And I mean, for her to pull it out, and she peaked at the right time. And I mean, I'm definitely not disappointed. I was kind of hoping Sam would pull it out. Um, I meant to write down his answer and one of the things he said, but and you may remember it. One of you may remember it, but when he said that he was never on the wrong side of the vote, he had been voted for more than anybody here. There were like 3 or 4 different things that I was like, whoa, that like totally changed my like view of Sam and his game. I don't know. It was a great final tribal, left me on the edge of my seat. Not surprised that Rachel won, and very happy that she won, but I don't know. It was all around fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, with Sam, the only thing I remember is the he was never on the wrong side of the vote, and he was voted for more than I think anybody else in the tribe. I think he said he was voted for 10 times.
Yeah, that's what I
right.
was gonna say. He 10 times.
And he described his game as scrappy, which perfect. If you could pick one word, that's it. And I think when he won when he won tribal, when he won fire, and he said find a way to find a way, I was like, that's amazing. That's what he's done the whole time. He's literally had his back against the wall since Sierra was voted out, and miraculously is still here. And I obviously Rachel won, so I don't want to like spend a ton of time celebrating not Rachel, but I think Sam's worth celebrating. I think Sue's worth celebrating. I think Teeny's worth celebrating. But yeah, Rachel and Sam, yeah, like you said, like they were I it's been so long, I kind of forgot that they were on a tribe together before
Mm-hmm.
the merge. And they both kind of had Rachel was affected by the Sierra vote just as much as Sam was. I think I kind of forgot that just because of the Sam and Sierra being a duo, that kind of forgot about that. But I think Rachel maybe did a better job of navigating through that smoother than Sam. Obviously, Sam did just fine in his own right, but Rachel found other people to kind of insulate herself in. And I think she did a really good job of building up other players as threats and kind of shielding herself along the way. I know that people were gunning for her, but she was really good at misdirecting people and getting them to vote one way. Similar to Caroline. I think Caroline did a lot of the similar things as well. But and then just to stick on Rachel, I know I'm just kind of going, but 4 immunity wins. She's one of, 4 women to do that?
Yeah.
Chrissy, Kim, and Kelly from season 1. I think
so. Rachel made the 5th.
Yeah, Rachel was the 5th, and obviously, a little bit of luck on her side with some of the advantages that she was given. Now, I don't think you win Survivor without having a little bit of luck on your side. But I think Saul made a great point that I didn't really consider. I think he said whenever Saul gave her the safety without power or whatever he gave her, he explained it whenever he was like kind of explaining Rachel's game, that it is lucky that Rachel got that from Saul, but she also formed that relationship and made Saul want to give that to her. So, I never really considered it that. I just kind of was like, she got an award or a reward in her, or an advantage in her fries. And then Saul got an advantage that he got to give away and gave it to Rachel. But great game all around by Rachel, and third woman in a row. And
yeah,
I think, if you want to put them up against each other, Dee, Kinsey, and Rachel, I think all three of them played incredible games.
absolutely. Yeah, and I think you're spot on. I don't think you can win Survivor without a little bit of luck, and and you can have all the advantages that you want, but if you don't use them to your advantage, then they do you no good. And at some level, they can be a detriment. And she absolutely took advantage of every one of those advantages. And yeah, I mean, Logan, what did you always tell me growing up? That constant luck is also known as skill.
That's
And
right.
so, I mean, you've got to figure out how to use the good moments to your advantage. And she did, like, brilliantly. And how many times did we talk about throughout the season that, like, man, oh, this person Survivor of the Week, like, they're playing incredibly. And then I think it was Genevieve even asked, like, okay, who was on the top the entire season? Nobody raised their hand. Like, everybody ebbs and flows. And Rachel peaked at the right times when she needed to, and at the very end, and going from pre-merge to merge to final three. I mean, her game was, kind of some ups and downs, ebbs and flows, but she peaked at the very end when she needed to, and it was awesome to see.
Yeah, I think Brandon, what you were saying with like where her game changed with the Sierra vote and Sierra leaving, I honestly think that's when, I think she kind of spoke about that tonight, but I honestly feel like that's when her game really, really changed. She was like, okay, I don't have anybody. I've got to go out and make a difference and play a different game. And yeah, I mean, if Sierra was still there, it could have been her, Sam, and Sierra that lasted a while longer. But with Sierra getting voted out, I think that truly helped set her up the way she was playing to get her to this point.
Yeah. I think, I agree with that. And I think, and you guys can help me with the timeline because I'm not entirely sure of when this happened, but I think one of my favorite Rachel plays, and kind of when I first noticed that, oh, she's good, is when she used her shot in the dark to gauge the tribe on whether or not she needed to play her hidden immunity idol. We celebrated that move when it happened as kind of a revolutionary play, and a new way to utilize a shot in the dark that I imagine will be used in the future as well. But she, kind of coined that play, and to me that was another turning point, or at least when the viewer was like, oh, she's got it.
Yeah.
I really wish she would have brought that up whenever Saul asked the question of like, what is something that you did that was just game breaking or completely like huge that I didn't see or notice. And I think that would have been something to speak to because we've never seen that before, the way she played that. And it was brilliant.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's probably the deciding moment for me on when her game changed. I was probably too focused on the relationship between Sam and Sierra to see how much that impacted Rachel's game, because they were so close that, and hearing Rachel talk about it, it's like, man, that's when I realized, like, man, Sam and Rachel had very similar games, even though they weren't aligned. They were affected by a lot of the same outcomes in the game, and it's just how they navigated it all. And I don't know, it was, but yeah, you're spot on, Brandon. That was the moment that it was like, okay, this girl is thinking different. And 47 seasons into the game, and I know the game has changed and evolved over the years, but to still find new ways to use, you know, parts of the game to give yourself an advantage is dang impressive. So
Um, I'm interested where you guys are with Sue, because I don't love calling people goats, but that the reality of Survivor is there's one goat that ends up in the final three, and that was Sue this season. But I think there's something to be said, whether it is strategic or we just really like Sue and I want her to be there. I think there's something to be said about getting rewarded for your loyalty. Whether that was Rachel just saying that to, be nice, or hey, Sue has really been the only one on the island that has never steered me wrong, so I want to bring her here with me. If you guys had to sum up Sue's game in 30 seconds, what would you say?
I think for me, if Sue's game was loyal, she was insulated, and I don't want it to come off in a bad way, but almost lackluster. I don't know if she made a ton of moves to really warrant winning in a sense. And even towards in Final Tribal, and I think she was almost kind of banking on her being older than what she was saying, and kind of some of that to get her those votes. And oh my gosh, she played a really great game. She's older than she really was. And I just don't feel like she even spoke great on what she did. Like, she just didn't have much to speak to. And I think that is where I'm getting the lackluster of there. She was very insulated. We said that multiple times throughout the season of the people around her aren't voting for her because she is loyal. So yes, loyalty I think is a huge, huge piece there. But I also think you need to be smart about when you have it and when you don't.
100%. Yeah, loyalty is great, but that alone I don't think is enough to win you the game. And in her own right, she played a very good game, but she ended up being on the wrong side of the vote too many times, and almost loyal to a fault, where it was, I'm going to prioritize loyalty over everything else. And I think that's definitely something to be proud of. And if you're, obviously her goal is to win $1 million, but if you want to go in and I want to make it as far as I possibly can and play what I would think would be a respectable game and show my kids and grandkids that, like, hey, you can be loyal and you can be yourself and make it as far as you possibly can, like, it's admirable. It's just, there's got to be, unless you're controlling the game from the top with your loyalty and your alliance, that's only going to get you so far. And she didn't have enough individual moves to make her stand out. It didn't necessarily help that nobody really asked her questions. And I actually respected Gabe a lot for, I forget who it was that asked Rachel.
Sierra.
And yeah, Sierra. Like, she asked Rachel and Sam a question, and then Gabe jumped in and was like, Sue, like, she had a connection with those two. I want to hear about that from my perspective, because I had a deep relationship with you. Like, I respected that a ton, and he helped involve her in that. She didn't play a good enough game to win. I don't think there's any question about that. And I think she realized that. But I mean, respectable game. And I don't know, just the entire cast all the way around. There was nobody that I really hated. Like, I liked everybody. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just to highlight Sue a little bit more, just some accolades throughout the season for her. I think did she win one or two immunity challenges? I think she might have won two.
I believe it was two.
So she won two.
Yeah, two. One was the individual, and one was like the guy and the girl, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
Yep. So she had two immunity wins. She found a hidden immunity idol.
That
Obviously
nobody knew about.
she kept it to herself. Even Caroline knew, but I actually think, and we talk about this a lot on the show, and you mentioned it earlier, Blake. An advantage. You can have an advantage all day long, but if you don't use it or utilize it properly, then you wasted it. And I think where Rachel, made the most of the advantages that she earned, Sue didn't. She could have saved Caroline with her idol and chose not to play it. And that probably would have gone a long way about how we felt about her. Understanding time and place.
And on that, I believe and I could be wrong, but I think I saw an interview with Caroline where she had said she told Sue not to play her idol on her. And I get it, but I'm with you. That definitely could have changed my outlook on Sue for sure.
Yeah, because I almost think it would have been better. I don't think it would have mattered, but I almost wonder if it would have been better for her game to just take the idol home as a souvenir instead of just wasting it at 5, knowing full well that you're just throwing it into the fire essentially.
Yeah. Imagine her going into the final tribal and saying, I've got this. I never had to use it. And, I didn't have to use it because of how I set up my game. I think, and I'll pivot to Sam here in just a second, but there's something to be said about thinking about how you're setting up your game, like all throughout the game. And like, you've got to be ready to speak. Like, if you get to the end, you have to be ready to speak on like how you got there and using your strengths and your weaknesses to kind of like perk up your game a little bit. And so pivoting to Sam really quickly, him talking about, I never really touched the flint and practice fire at all. Like, wait a second, you've been on this island for 20 some odd days and you haven't made fire more than once. Like, and he even made a joke like, man, I'm scared that people are going to think like, why haven't you practiced this? And I was literally sitting there thinking, why haven't you practiced this before you came on Survivor? And even while you're there, like, you have to know this is a possibility when you're in final 6, when you're in final 4. Like, why are you not practicing that? And so I think it's those little mistakes, quote unquote, that are going to end up costing you the game. Now, it didn't necessarily impact Sam's game because he ended up making fire and being okay. But like, it's those little moments that I think can change the entire trajectory of your game.
I want to go back to the idol with Sue real quick. She obviously played it, and we've talked about before of if you have an idol and it's guaranteed safety, do you play it? And I feel like majority of our answers have been if you have the chance to be safe, has been play it. In that situation, I don't think she was in jeopardy of going home, but being that close and in the off chance that votes got cast against her just randomly, if she didn't play it, she'd be regretting that. So having that, knowing that you're getting to that final 4, I myself, I think I would have played it as well. Because I don't know if not playing it then and having the chance of going home or presenting it at the final tribal, I don't know if it makes that big of a difference because at the end of the day, nobody knew she had it still. She didn't have to use it because no votes were cast against her, but in the off chance that they were, she would have gone home, so I in my thought, I probably would have played it as well just to know I was safe and was going to that next step. But I just don't know if there would have been that big of a difference of holding it that one extra night of saying, hey, I actually never had to use this. People, I mean, nobody knew she had it, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I don't think that there's anything Sue could have done that would have swayed the jury. She could have, hey, you know what? I appreciate you, Rachel, for wanting to take me, but I want to take on Sam in fire. Like, we've only seen one jury that somewhat valued the fire making challenge in the new era. I don't think winning fire can be your move. You have 26 days to make your moves. I don't think you can sit on your hands and do nothing for 25 days and then expect fire to be your big thing. So, yeah, I just it's tough for Sue, but somebody's got to be a 0 vote finalist, and this year it was Sue.
Yeah. I did see a photo on Twitter, and I'm curious. I'd be curious to go back a little bit farther, but there's 6 photos from from previous seasons in the new era that all of the winners were sitting in the middle seat. So somebody's like, sit in the middle. But it's photos of 6 previous seasons and all of the winners were sitting in the middle seat. So I'd be curious to go back even farther to see, is that the same or what that looks like. But I thought that was pretty interesting that all of them were in the middle. I think it's just a coincidence, but
that makes me question too, and I feel like this would be fairly easy to figure out, but maybe we can come back to you guys on a future episode and talk about it. But I would be curious to know too, how many people that won the final immunity challenge go on to win the game?
Yeah.
Because it's, I feel like it's got to be fairly high, right? And I don't remember off the top of my head, but let's look into that. And I know we're going to take a couple weeks off and come back and do some episodes in between this season and season 48. But let's come back to that, because I'm very curious to see if there's any correlation there.
I like that. Yeah. I think that's a good question.
Yeah. And I do, just to stay on the final 4. I want to talk about Teeny for like 2 minutes. Obviously, Teeny was my winner pick. Rooted for her the whole way, even though it was difficult. But I think Teeny was just being herself on the island. And I think that was to her detriment a lot of the time. Very emotional game. Easily manipulated. Not quite sure what's real and what's fake.
How much of that do you think was her age and due to lack of life experience? Because Jeff mentioned that she was, I think, the youngest one of the season, or at least the youngest one from jury on. How much of that do you think was like lack of life experience?
I think a little bit is in there. I think Sam is only a year older than her, but it sounds like Sam's engaged, so maybe a little more life experience. But I think, I think Teeny is just a fresh out of, I don't know if Teeny went to college, but fresh out of college type of person. Hasn't really done much in the real world. Just hangs out with, is there for a good time type of person. And I think when you're going against people that have, established careers and have spouses, all that have, lived lives, and you're kind of Teeny seemingly trying to, already having trouble fitting into her own skin just based off of some things that she said, and then trying to fit in with a group of people is probably an incredibly difficult task. And I think for a lot of people, that's a recipe for you to get voted out early. But I think it was very apparent that Teeny's social game was incredibly strong, if not the strongest of the season. And I think that's what got Teeny through the game, was that and that alone.
Yeah. There were a couple of moments that I didn't really love from Teeny, and I want this to be a positive, so I'll spin this around here in a second. But the way she was kind of attacking, she's attacked Kyle a little bit and been kind of against Sam for like, hey, he's this good looking jock, which is so funny because knowing Sam, he's like a theater kid who like is yes attractive, but is not who I would consider like a like a jock, like super masculine, just all American guy. I don't know. It was just different. He hasn't tried watermelon until the season finale. Like,
I mean,
what are
he
we
didn't.
talking about?
I
And
don't
I
think
mean, he
he
didn't.
had fruit in general.
Right.
Since he
It's
got
just like,
Island.
I don't know. Just some of that, you could clearly see that Teeny struggled with some self esteem. And I hope I hope she's able to look back on this and say, like, I am good enough. And people do really like me. My social game was awesome. Teeny's an incredible person and a really good player, just wasn't good enough to win. But I really, really liked how it seemed like she grew over 26 days. And I don't know, that's one of my favorite things about Survivor. I mean, everybody has that growth on Survivor, and you get to see it, but her more than a lot of people. And I hope she's able to rewatch the season, and I hope there's a lot of positive feedback for her because she doesn't need to be low on self esteem. Like she's awesome, and I hope she can see that one day.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, like you said, like I think everybody has those moments in Survivor of self-reflection and how to move forward and how that's going to change their life. And I think you said that perfectly. I think she has a lot to hold her head high on and to learn from. And I truly hope that's the case for her. But great social player, great person, and she was fun to watch.
Yeah. No, I usually when players are quote unquote dragged to the end, I'm just kind of annoyed by them. Like, I don't want you to be here because I don't think you're worthy of being here, I guess. But I think everybody in this cast had a case to be at the end and had a path somewhere to win the game.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. I want to take a little bit of a turn, and I want to talk about Jeff for a minute. Is it just me, or did this season stand out to it's let me rephrase that. It seemed to me like Jeff enjoyed this season more than I've seen him enjoy a lot of seasons previously. Like he is by far my favorite host for any game show ever because he may be the biggest fan of Survivor there is. And he made it very apparent, especially in this episode where he talked about like, I get to see it all. And getting he has such insight into the game, but from the fans' perspective, I don't know. It just every single season he impresses me more and more and more, and it seems like every season he's a bigger and bigger fan of Survivor, and this season even more so. Like it just, I don't know. The season was different for Jeff for me. He just, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. I don't know if you guys got that same sense.
I think they're, after 47 seasons and knowing that he's as big of a staple to the show, as the contestants are in the island itself, like I think there's probably just a freedom for him at this point in his career. And I think the being around people that for the most part seem likable is probably a boost to him, and people that are compelling and have great gameplay. But I think there's just a freedom this season that he had. I mean, he literally let in 47 seasons have we ever seen him let somebody sit in the seat at tribal council. Literally never. I don't remember if it was this season or last season where he's like eating popcorn. He's bringing props to tribal council.
Yeah.
So I think 47 seasons into the greatest reality show on the planet, it's probably a pretty easy spot to be in for him.
Yeah, and I think he even said it tonight that he is almost more of a viewer, obviously, than a player. He obviously hasn't played it, but I think that just him enjoying that more even speaks to the players, how the game was played this season, and we've noticed the difference this season. We've had more enjoyment in this season from the beginning. So from the viewer perspective, I think we saw it and we didn't see everything. And for him to be able to see everything and say that even at the end of this season, I think just speaks to how great this season was compared to some of these previous seasons in the new era. This season was just different. It was a great season. I think, like we said, best season of the new era, hands down.
The other thing that impresses me too is that he has no insight to what the audience thinks while it's being filmed. And he's still spot on with a lot of his calls on like how things are going and how things are set up and who's playing a better game. And like, again, I talk about Big Brother quite frequently, but Julie Chin, who's the host of Big Brother, with Big Brother being live all season, she gets to see some interaction and some feedback from the fans that are actually watching week to week. And Jeff doesn't get to see that while they're filming because season 48 has already been completely filmed. He doesn't know how the fans are going to react. And yet he still seems to be so engaged and like on point with how the community is. And I don't know, it's just incredibly impressive for him to be like that in tune with the community during the season that's being filmed when he has no interaction to the audience during that time. I don't know if that makes sense at all, but I don't know. It just impresses me a lot.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes sense. And again, biggest fan of Survivor. So when you are one of the biggest fans of Survivor, if not the biggest, I mean, you're going to be dialed in and ready for everything and excited about it. But no, I agree with that, Blake.
Yeah. And it's got to be amazing to have a front row seat to literally every tribal council. He said it. He's obviously gotten to experience every player ever that's come through and played Survivor. And I would think, him being one of the, executive producers of the show that has, kind of drives the seasons and what's going in the theme of the season, what's going to happen, challenges, twists and turns and all of that. And this season, like 47 seasons in, seeing something we've never seen before with how Rachel played the shot in the dark and negotiating her shot in the dark for Rice and new things like that would get me fired up and rejuvenated.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. What have we not talked about?
Just for funnies, I love that Sue opened Final Tribal with revealing that she's not 45 and she's in fact 59 and her birthday was actually that day, and getting outside of Sam getting virtually no reaction. And it cracked me up because we had made the joke last week of, that's gonna be her big reveal and everyone's just gonna be like, we know. And it cracked me up that it actually happened. But
props to her, though. I mean, being 59, obviously turning 59 on that day, but being 58, 59, being double the age of Teeny, I mean, some of the people that she played against, she holding her own, winning immunity challenges. I mean,
Stepped
Sam
up.
didn't. I mean, Sam didn't win an immunity challenge. He won rewards, but for her to go out and win those things, compete, be strong enough to do that, that truly, truly impressive.
I know that we've pretty much covered everything in this episode, but I do want to talk about the challenge a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because I was not personally expecting that massive of a challenge. I was expecting something like, the ball game where you have your hand tied around your back and drop a ball or drop an
Yeah.
extra ball periodically. But
Didn't that change last season? Was it last season that they did a similar challenge? And correct me if I'm wrong, didn't somebody throw that challenge to help somebody else?
yeah, so Liz threw the challenge to help
That's right.
Kenzie beat Maria. That's what
That's right.
happened.
That's right.
And I'm glad that you brought that up because I kind of forgot that happened. But I'm actually, of course, I don't think that anybody would have done it this time. But I'm actually surprised that it wasn't brought up at some point in the season by Jeff, just from a rules standpoint. It could have been behind the scenes of no throwing challenges or no helping. But yeah, a
Well,
massive
this challenge was also designed in a way where you really couldn't, other than that one, like the letters where you had to spell unlock, and I think it was Rachel that like kind of yelled unlock as she figured it out, and but other than that it didn't seem like there was a way you didn't have to remember what happened like at the previous stage or a code word or anything like that
right.
to do that. So it did kind of seem like they changed it up a little bit to make it to where you couldn't help out like that. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm kind of surprised that didn't get brought up.
And honestly, shout out to Jeff for catching Rachel's puzzle piece not being correct the first time. Because the puzzle piece obviously fit properly with her having it in there wrong, but like easily could have been controversial if you didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Because some viewer would have,
Mhm.
maybe even Sam. But
Yeah, absolutely. I thought the only chance that Sam had, because he's not as good at puzzles as Rachel is, the only chance that Sam had was getting way far ahead in the challenge, and he didn't seem to capitalize on it. There were a couple moments where he seemed really far ahead, and then when he was throwing the ball trying to unlock that little bridge, he couldn't do it, and he was the last one. He still ended up making it really, really close. So if he would have gotten that right off the bat, I think he very easily could have won. Now, would Rachel have made fire, and would Rachel have still won? Potentially. Um, but we also saw between Sam and Teeny when they were making fire that Teeny clearly was the better fire maker. A lot of that came down to just the wind,
the
and
win, yeah.
it was just bad luck on her part. And so that very easily could have been Rachel. And if it was Sam, Sue, and Teeny, I think Sam would have run away with it. So it is like you look back to little moments like that, it's like, man, you're never really out of it. And I don't know. It was Sam was incredibly close to winning that challenge, and I think that could have potentially, um, made or broken his game.
Yeah. And I don't know how much of an impact it had or how long he was really just standing there, but it kind of seemed like whenever everybody thought that Rachel was about to finish the puzzle, that they were all just standing around. Like, I wonder if
Mhm.
Sam keeps going on the puzzle, if he wins, if he actually finishes it before her and does it correctly and wins immunity. If that changes again, it's a big case of what if. So it doesn't really matter. What we do know is Rachel and Sam both got the final tribal, and Rachel won 7-1. So I don't know if
Were you
winning an
su-
immunity.
were you surprised that Sierra didn't vote for Sam?
Um, no. the same way that I wasn't surprised that Gabe didn't vote for Sue. I think, and I meant to bring it up earlier, I was actually impressed with this jury because there didn't seem to be any bitterness. They all seemed to be open. They didn't seem to have their mind made up when they, got in there. I think that they truly wanted to make sure that they were getting the best possible winner that they could.
Yeah. No, I was a little surprised that she didn't vote for Sam with as good as his final tribal was and as close as they were, because they seemed way closer than her and Rachel. So I thought he would have Kyle, and I thought he would have Sierra and potentially Gabe, the way Gabe was talking. So I thought, oh man, there's 3 votes. Like this could be really, really close. I don't think I would have been surprised either way, but I still don't. I'm not surprised that Rachel won. I'm surprised that she won 7-1 a little bit.
I did think it was going to be closer. I thought that Sam would sway some people and it would be like a 5-3 type of situation.
Yeah.
I was surprised he only got the 1 vote. Absolutely, especially the way he spoke and some of the reactions, and even, like we said, Rachel's reaction to some of his answers. I expected 2, 3, 4 vote, not necessarily 4 votes because I'd been split, but more than just 1.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I already know the answer to this, but let's say it is split 4-4. Sue
Rachel.
has to make the final vote. Yeah.
Rachel. Yeah.
Yep.
Rachel. There's no question.
Yep.
Sue played that loyalty card, and which is funny because her and Rachel weren't really loyal to each other until the end. And it seemed like, I don't know, maybe this is a little pessimistic of me, but Sue seemed to be loyal when it benefited her and not necessarily willing to give much. Like when Rachel told her that she had the idol, she didn't immediately tell Rachel that she had an idol, that Sue had the idol. So I don't know.
Yeah. She didn't even tell Caroline.
Right. No.
Caroline just figured it out. Yeah.
So I don't know. There were some little things there, but yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I know we keep saying it over and over again, but incredible season. And I don't even think it's recency bias. I think I was thinking about it going into tonight, regardless of the outcome, unless like somebody won that shouldn't have. That just from start to finish, great season. Some of my favorite players. I think one of my favorite redemption arcs in Andy. And then just like Genevieve being basically invisible for 3 episodes and then instantly becoming a season favorite and likely returning on season 50. Kyle being an unexpected challenge beast. Like I thought Kyle was just going to be a dude that was like, okay, dude, whatever. You're here. But loved his story, loved everything that he stood for, and like just rocked out challenges, did his thing, and was the huge early threat at the merge.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that it's not recency bias, because I feel like I've said this the last couple seasons that it's one of my favorite seasons yet, and then next season I'm on to the next. But this is, I think, the big difference for me looking back, kind of overarching over the entire season. The big difference was the pre-merge game. And the fact that
100%.
every tribe was involved in the game from the beginning, and it was even. I don't know. Everybody had to play the game before the merge, and that to me set up the entire rest of the game. And I think that was the big difference in this season versus the past several seasons.
Yeah. Shout out Jelinski. That's hilarious. No, I don't think it's recency bias because I think if you like just sticking with the 3 seasons that we've covered, 45, 46, 47, those pre-merges were rough. 45, you had 2 quits, I think, 2 quitters, and then you had a player that clearly had no business being on the island. You had like Emily for the first 2 episodes that we were like, my goodness, this person is yikes. Obviously, she had huge redemption and ended up being a fan favorite, but you go back to season 46 pre-merge, Banu getting way too much screen time and just honestly making pre-merge kind of miserable to watch.
Yeah.
Outside of thinking Andy was going to quit in episode 1, like, fantastic.
Outside of that, for this episode, I mean, don't know if I have a ton else there. I think we've said everything great there. Just thinking next season, we obviously got a teaser for 48. I don't feel like there's ever a ton of information there in that teaser, but gives us a glimpse of some of the people, some of the muscles,
Start drinking
and
chocolate milk every
Chocolate
day.
milk.
but I think from what we could see, and I think they do a really good job of these in the previews. It looks like there's going to be a lot of interesting characters, and I'm excited for the list to come out of who's on it. Read the bios, go through our stuff that we do, but I'm excited, and I hope we have a similar season as this season. Obviously different, but similar post merge. Everybody's having to play, and I don't know. I'm excited.
Yeah, that's another question I had was because they really only seem to highlight or have quote unquote confessionals from like 4 players from next season. It'd be interesting to go back to the preview at the end of season 46 for season 47 on who they highlighted the most, to see, was Rachel a part of that? Did they even talk about Rachel? Because clearly, like, the entire season has already been filmed. That's how they did the promo. I'm sure they're not like giving stuff away by any means, but it would just be interesting to see, okay, of these 4, maybe may have been 3, may have been 5, I don't know, of the couple people that they highlighted for season 48, are these players that historically are going to get out first or historically going to make it far into the merge? It'd be curious to go back and look at that. So that may be something that we look at for a future episode in between seasons as well.
I like it.
I think this is just literally not important, but it's funny to me every time whenever Jeff does plug the next season with the current season, knowing that at that moment, the next season has not been filmed. So he's like plugging something that at that moment has not even happened. Stupid, but always interesting to me.
Yeah. And do we know when season 48 is coming out? Is it the end of February? What is that? Do we know the release date just yet, Brandon?
I'll tell you. It is on February 26th.
Okay.
So pretty quick turnaround.
That is.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I think, I think we're closing out here, even though like I don't want to because I love this season so much. Like I already, I mean, I'm not gonna overshare, but I already know what I want one of our episodes to be. But I think obviously it's December 18th. Christmas is next week. New Year's Day is the following week. We'll return at some point in January.
Yeah. I think 2 weeks off, and then come back probably every other week until next season. And I think some of the people listening know I'm expecting my second child middle of February. So Next season may look a little different for me, but I will still be here for most of everything. But yeah, there's a lot of things in the interim that I think we may only have 3 or 4 episodes, maybe, in between this season and next season. But I'm excited to dive into a couple different things. So, yeah,
I mean, as always, thank you, Blake. Thank you, Logan, for doing the show. I mean, there's really nothing better than talking about the greatest show on earth with your friends. And we were gonna do it anyway. So 3 years ago, or I guess a year and a half ago, not 3 years ago, why not do a podcast about it?
yeah. We
but-
sit there on playing video games talking about it anyway. Why not?
Yeah. But yeah, thank you guys for doing this every week. I know there's a lot that goes into it that, it really is just sitting here and talking, but there is prep work that goes into it, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun. Thank you to everybody that's been listening to us. I don't know why you stuck around. Like Logan's kind of annoying, but
Okay.
but no, without an audience, what's the point, right? So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you everybody, and I'm excited to keep this train a rolling. So we've got big plans in store for next season and future seasons. So yeah, stay tuned for sure.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback off of that, again, thank you, like Brandon said, both of you. It's been a blast, especially this season. But even going forward to the listeners, I hope you guys, everybody comes back and continues to listen next season. And in this kind of downtime, obviously, like we said, we're going to have some episodes that we put out. But in the meantime, would love to get some feedback of your thoughts on the season, of what you hope for the next season coming up, or even some thoughts of changes that you might like to see on the podcast, maybe some suggestions or some different things there. I'm always open and love to hear that from the audience, because we obviously, like we said, we're going to talk about it anyways, but if we can make our podcast better for the audience, and if you guys have any ideas, we have that email. Brandon, email.
Yeah, email us at themergefeastpodcast@gmail.com for all your feedback, suggestions, questions, whatever you have. I would love to get that engagement from you guys and make you guys, let you guys have a voice on the show, be part of the show just as much as we are.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So if you guys don't have anything, yeah, I think this is a great end to a great season. And like you both have said, thank you both very much. And thank you to the audience. I'm excited to, like I said earlier, keep this train rolling, and excited to be back here in a couple weeks. So make sure you tune in. And yeah, Brandon, go ahead and say goodbye, Logan.
Goodbye, Logan.